All right, good morning, folks. My name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy, death, and taxes. Today we're going to be running back the deck that we played last stream. We're going to be playing some four-color Loam. Connor thought I got robbed last stream and deserved a better finish than a 3-2. And admittedly, we maybe did. So he donated to see this deck in action again. I am running back 74 of the same 75 that we played on Wednesday. I've made one change. Connor thought it might be cool to try out Kaya Ghost Assassin in the sideboard over Marchesa, which I can totally see the logic of. So I really like Kaya, and I've tried to play this in a handful of decks where the color scheme's appropriate. But a lot of times when you're playing a black-white deck, you're playing a like black-white X deck as well, and so sometimes the mana doesn't work super well for it. But it has some really good abilities. So like with 5 starting loyalty, you can use the like -2 ability for 2 turns in a row. You know, your opponent discards a card, you draw a card. That's really good card advantage. So for 2 out of every 3 turns, this card has the potential to be like Jace levels of good. The issue here is that it's kind of awkward at protecting itself. Like, the 0 ability works at protecting it, but it also ends up, like, losing you some life, so there's a little bit of tension there. It's great against protecting it against big threats, you know, your opponent has a Thought-Knot or a Reality Smasher or something, you know, you can keep those at bay. But, you know, when your opponent has, like, a couple of, like, 1/1 or 2/2 idiots, Kaya feels a lot less good against that sort of stuff. But I do generally quite like the card. But the big thing that we're really trying out right now is Cindervines, which is a very good disenchant effect with quite a bit of upside. We didn't really get a huge chance to like mess around with that card specifically on stream on Wednesday. Like we boarded it in once or twice, but we didn't necessarily like really see the power of this card in action. You know, we didn't see it do 10 to someone or something like that. So I want to give this another try. Before I get started with the stream, I just want to say a couple of generic things. I saw some cool stuff on Twitter this week, which is nice because, you know, Twitter recently hasn't been always the greatest of places for news, but Thomas Enevoldson pushed out a D&T article, which is number 1 of 3 articles in a series that he's doing, which is really cool because he does not do very much content creation at all, so I'm really happy to see him writing about D&T. The first part is already out. I believe I read that parts 2 and 3 are coming on Monday and Friday. So if you're a D&T player, like, check those out. The first one is good, but it's kind of the introductory article, right? So I think the next 2 are really going to have some good meat to them. And if you've been wondering, you know, well, why does he like to play this card? In his first article, he goes into some of that stuff. So, for example, I've never really liked the idea of Karn in D&T, but he walks through what he likes about Karn, and I can totally see his argument. So I highly recommend that. More generally, if you're like a fan of like D&T style decks, Craig Wesco pushed out an article which kind of talks about like a decade of playing with various white weenie decks. And it was really cool to just like see the various decks that he's played and he's chronicled. It was a really neat read. Admittedly, I skimmed some of like the standard sections, but like when it was a deck that I recognized because like I was playing standard at the time or I was playing modern at the time, it was cool to like read his, you know, retrospective on those decks. There's also 2 or 3 sections on his D&T finishes, so that was cool as well. All right, that's enough warm up. I'm not going to do any more of a deck tech than that since I've played this on stream a handful and I already talked about it a bit on Wednesday. So let's just jam. Yeah, I think Cindervines has a lot of potential as a legacy card. Very excited to be testing that out. I don't think this card has gotten a lot of love yet. It's not quite like Eidolon of the Great Revel in terms of like continuous damage or anything like that, but continuous damage on a otherwise good effect, I think that's great. All right. I will basically always keep a hand that can produce a turn 1 Bob or a turn 1 Chalice. We will want a little bit more mana with this hand, but that's okay. You know, we're playing a good amount of lands, so that's reasonable. Oh boy. Opponent has revealed a Chancellor. The good news is that I have Scavenging Ooze. Alright, Cabal Therapy target themselves. Alright, so they have double Chancellor, and they have Exhume. So next turn, they can Exhume a Chancellor. I'm so close to being able to be cute, chat. I'm so close to, like, get a Bob or an Ooze countered, bring it back to play with their Chancellor. But that's not going to happen. I can, however, clear the initial Chancellor trigger this turn. Oh, shoot, double Chancellor. I knew that. They're both in the graveyard. That's okay. It's clearly an error. But this clears the initial ones, and I think that if I would have seen that, I still would have needed to make this play. So I don't know that it is a punt. Like, it's bad. It's like I could have waited till turn 2, played the Mox, gotten effectively 1 mana ahead. But I don't think that it's going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going... No, I'll just play Badlands and pass. So then next turn I can play Ooze and eat the Chancellor. Never mind. All right. Caracas is actually a pretty good draw. We'll keep that one hidden. Will I play this Bob? I guess the real question is, like, is Bob likely to deal me 5 points of damage over the course of this game? The answer is yes. I probably shouldn't play the Bob. If the answer is no, I should play the Bob. Probably should play the Bob. Because it can enable some draws, like me drawing a Lily, you know, getting the Chancellor off the table, and then, like, really going and taking over the game. So I will play that. Not really in a situation right now where, like, I can afford to wasteland my opponent. My own mana is pretty valuable. Yeah, Farish, agreed. Okay. So now I'm going to have the Chancellor under control. So this is probably about the point of the game where I should just kill my own Bob so that it doesn't kill me. Unfortunately, doing that does mean that I'm going to give up my Bayou. I think that's okay. So play Mox Diamond, like tap the weight. No, probably tap the Caracas to play Pay. I'm going to plan out this whole turn before I do anything. So play Mox Diamond, discard the Ghost Quarter to do it, tap Caracas, use these two to Abrupt Decay, and play this and Teague if I've still got mana left over. Okay. All right. So discard Ghost Quarter. Don't really need that. So I guess I can attack, get the free points in with Bob. Green, black, Abrupt Decay Bob. I don't need to pay for that. This can't be countered. And now I can go green, white for Teague. Pay the extra. Yes. Pass the turn. And then we got Maze for Chancellor. And my knight will soon, not immediately, but soon, outclass this. Yeah, you're right. Wasting is probably better than playing Teague. Definitely better. So I can attack in Wasteland myself, hit my opponent to 7. No, okay, I have a win on board if my opponent doesn't block the knight. Wait, no, I don't, because Maze would remove it from combat. So my opponent really needs to respect Punishing Fire here. So I think they need to block both. Otherwise they die to Punishing Fire. But they're not going to do that. So be it. Alright, so that just means I lose. Alright, I think I punted that one away. My thought was play Teague so I get another body into play and then Wasteland the following turn because, like, they didn't really have anything. And I probably just threw that one away by not wasting. Alright, so I probably want Thalia, Leyline, Swords, and I'll probably also play Cindervines, both as a source of damage and something that can destroy Animate Dead. So Loam's probably too slow for this matchup. Punishing Fire, not great, even though it would have been lethal there. Teague, not amazing. Library, a little slow, and Decay, not stellar. Like, you could probably mess around with, like, Decay versus Library here. I might swap Libraries in on the draw. Or, sorry, on the play. But I think I like this. Generally speaking, it's my impression that this is probably pretty close to an even matchup. The ley lines out of the sideboards are really cripplingly good. This is just an absolutely bonkers start, by the way. This is like about the best thing that I could hope for. Note, we're keeping the forest over the scrubland, so that like I can play Ooze and have an activation up. I know the Leyline of the Void means that like it's unlikely that my opponent is going to do anything quickly, but you know, it's something we need to be aware of. So since we're seeing the Bayou, it probably means that our opponent has abrupt decays, which conveniently doesn't answer a Leyline, although they could be playing Assassin's Trophy. That's not unreasonable. If we make it to my opponent's end step, I will very much consider fetching Verdant Catacombs just to get a 1/1. It would mean that I... no, it's fine. I'm fine with aggressively blowing an Abrupt Decay there. I would like to keep my opponent from hard casting something like a Grave Titan or Grizzlebrand. That's one of the few ways that I see myself losing in this situation, so... Again, there's a situation where Abrupt Decay did something technically, but like Decay and Library kind of both very medium. Sword Equip, thank you very much for your continued support. Got some fun things coming for the channel, I think, in the coming months. I've got a handful of potential guests lined up for the future. I talked to a handful of people a while back, kind of when I was in the research stage of sort of doing all of my guest streams. So I've got kind of a spreadsheet of people who are potentially interested in being guests. So I'm pretty close to my next guest goal. I'm one donation away, so I'll probably start contacting people for that pretty soon. Our opponent's on 5. We're starting with Leyline. We also have Chalice. This is how you redeem kind of a weak sort of like game 1 situation. Yeah, so we have backup Chalice for... Oh, wow, Reverent Silence. Okay. That's another reason to have Forest. All right. My opponent does have Entomb after all that, which is inconvenient for me. I can play Chalice of the Void to stop Lotus Petal, but it would also stop my future Mox Diamonds, which is slightly awkward, but that's probably past the point where that matters. So I am going to go ahead and cast that on 0 as well. Nice. So I can just cast that next turn. It's not quite where I want to be, but it means that like they get 1 graveyard-based threat ever. This is better than playing Leyline by a lot. Yeah, I mean that was very, very ideal for us. Speaking of ideal, jeez. How I've missed you, my dear Thalia. Top deck has been so kind. Do I want to fetch Dryad Arbor? I could just start beating for 3. Like, I already have black. I already have green-white. I already have red-green. Yeah, I think I'm okay with fetching Dryad Arbor. I may not attack with it this turn. Alright, so as soon as I draw 1 more land, I can put Chalice on 2, and then this is just, like, lights out. Incredibly powerful. Yeah, so, like, people ask me sometimes, like, why do you love Thalia so much when you can just, like, cast Show and Tell? It's situations like this, where, like, Thalia just prevents your opponent from doing anything. So I probably just want to play Baron more tapped. So that I can 100% Chalice for 2 next turn, and then my opponent should have literal 0 outs. Unless I flip, like, double Leyline off Bobs or something like that. Can't really see myself losing. But playing out the Bob is good because this is 7 damage on board, meaning that my opponent cannot fetch or they die. So this is like kind of a weird additional taxation effect. So they can't like Petal, they can't Dark Ritual to get ahead on mana. So that should do it. All right, I didn't play game 1 well. That's very clear. But Leyline's really good. It's not necessarily a card that every deck wants to play or anything, but what's nice against like Black-Red Reanimator in particular is it's a graveyard hate effect that they don't have the chance to take with a discard spell. So like you can keep a hand on the strength of like a Surgical Extraction, but as soon as they Thought Seize you, that falls apart, right? Leyline is one of the few cards where they don't have any opportunity to interact with that via discard. That match, I think, also shows something that I really like about 4-color Loam, is that like once you make it to the post sideboard games and you get to like trim the cards that aren't necessarily good in any given matchup, you really get to make your deck into a monster. Like in those post sideboard games, like while we're just like waiting here, if we just like kind of look at the deck list, like you get to have like your Chalices, your Thalias, your Ley Lines. Like you get a decent amount of hateful cards that you can mulligan to, and then you have like the cards that are still good but not insane, right? Like you get like Ooze, Knight, Lily that fall into that good but not crazy category as well. And you get to trim the fat. Like you get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter, replace it with much better things. And I know every deck does that, like that's the whole point of sideboarding, but I feel like Loam sideboards very well. It has a bunch of great tools that are a little bit generic in nature that really let it adjust. Let's see, what's going on in the life of Phil? I'm finally done with being sick. That's awesome, because I went on like a 2-week period where I had like nasty sinus stuff going on, so feels great to be better and over that. Makes streaming much easier and more pleasant for me. Tonight, I'm gonna get some hamburgers. This place in Roanoke, or I guess technically it's in the town over from Roanoke called Vinton. They have a place called Hamburguesa, sort of a play on words of hamburguesa, which is Spanish for hamburger. Sort of a farm-to-table place. Have some relatively designer burgers. I'm gonna give that a try tonight. One of the things that I try to do on all my date nights is we try to go somewhere different every week. So we take turns like picking a place and paying for it. And we've just been rotating through all the cool little eateries in Roanoke. Oh man, yeah, I went to a place in Greensboro that put like jelly. God, this hand is great. That put like jelly on my burgers. And I didn't think I was down for that. I was wrong. It was delicious. All right, so my opponent was last seen on Mono Red Prison. Now, I'm going to make plays this turn, assuming that they are, in fact, on Mono Red Prison. Okay? So, in the blind, normally with this hand, 100% you lead on Chalice of the Void. I am not going to do that. I'm going to lead on Bob. That's because I think the Red Prison and Chalice on 1 or Chalice on 0, not strong plays, right? If I'm wrong, I accept that I may be punished for my mistake, but I'm going to play it out like this. I'm also going to hide my forest for as long as possible so that it incentivizes them to play a Blood Moon, which actually isn't going to do much against me. Yeah, so Hellcline, it's been one of the best things we decided to do because like A, we're trying new places all the time and you get to like discover some cool gems that you can take your other friends to. And B, it just like mixes things up. Because like once you've been dating someone for a while, it's really easy to just like fall. I meant to play my Chalice on 0, by the way. I just didn't. That's a Legion War boss. Um, like things can just fall into too much of a routine and pattern, and things can get boring. And like this was just a great thing for us to do to keep it interesting. So now that I didn't play this on turn 1 on accident, I'm just going to hold it because the ability for me to discard some lands later on is probably more important than just like getting this into play at this stage. Definitely a little frustrated with myself though, because if my opponent goes like Ancient Tomb into Chandra or something like that this turn, it's bad. Yeah, see, Blood Moon is fine. I don't actually care all that much about it. Like it's still a nuisance, but it's not that big of a deal. Man, so super rewarded for not playing Chalice out early now. I'm only half joking when I say this, by the way, but it's somewhat likely that I also might just like put a Chalice on 4 this match. I also think I misplayed by playing out the second Mox potentially, because if my opponent Fiery Confluences and does 1 damage and destroys 2 artifacts, that's pretty annoying. Then again, at the same time, if I hold it, my opponent might put a Chalice on 0, and then I can't play it later, so it's weird. So that Chalice on 4 thing, are we there? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I will be there next turn if I draw a land. Okay. Noted. Thank you for the suggestion. So if I don't draw a land, I could also consider Chalice of the Void on 3. I'm not overly worried about their 3-drops, though. I say as he plays Ensnaring Bridge. But like the aggressive 3-drops I don't care about. The Blood Moons I don't care about at this stage. I'm more worried about losing to like Chandra and Fiery Confluence. Welcome to the new Legacy metagame. I gotta snip this one. This Liliana is slightly awkward now, because like I don't really want to be like plussing into Oblivion when they have Ensnaring Bridge. I just put Chalice on 4. I can minus on myself in order to put my Dark Confidant into the graveyard so it doesn't kill me. That's strong, right? Right? And just a note, like, my opponent was probably casting the Fiery Confluence to get it out of their hand in the hopes of hiding behind Ensnaring Bridge. Just in case that wasn't clear. So I'm not going to minus on myself yet. Even if my opponent plays something like a Goblin Rabblemaster or Legion War Boss, I don't need to worry about the Lily dying yet. Teague is strong. Second Bob, also strong. So it's kind of awkward. I'm almost in the situation where I can, like, Lily plus, discard, grow the ooze, do sweet things. I'm not quite there yet, though. Yeah, Zach. Like, one punishing fire and the game ends. So, like, life's good. Life's good. I'm not worried about winning this one. Fine with playing out another Bob. So with Chalice on 4, is there anything that I need to worry about? If I play Teague, then I can't play Chalice. But playing Teague would stop them from playing something weird like Rolling Earthquake, which isn't seeing play anymore. I think it's defensible to both, like, play and not play Teague. I think I'm going to play Teague. Yeah, I'm going to play Teague. Like, it does mean that, like, their chalices will get stuck in their hand. And it does also mean that they just, like, can't cast the Fiery Confluences in the first place to get them out of the hand. Alright, so I think we're gonna really get Cindervines' chance to shine here. This seems like a great matchup for this. So I'm gonna play those. Dahlia seems strong. I'll probably play Swords of Plowshares for their Goblin Rabbly friends. I think Ajani's probably fine. Golgari Charm's probably fine. Kaya and Tabernacle are maybes. The sideboarding guide that Connor gave me did not have Kaya in the deck list, but, like, this is a fine card here. Like, it can do some direct damage. That's fine. And I think we also are going to have a lot of medium cards for the matchups. Like, I think Chalice is bad. I think Ooze is pretty bad. Maze of Ith, not good against the threats that they're playing. Caracas, not stellar. The Loams are bad. So then we've got, like, the Kaya and the Tabernacle. The Tabernacle's very good against, like, Legion War Boss and Goblin Rabblemaster. It makes their life super awkward. But for most of the game, it's bad. It's going to be something that, like, I'd want to tutor up, but not necessarily, like, just draw. So maybe that means I shouldn't board it in. Kaya might be better than some of the randos that are still in the deck, though. Yeah, Zach. So we dropped a Zenith to fit Sylvan Library #2 into the deck list, which I think is a very good decision. Like once you cut some of the green silver bullets from the sideboard, like Knight of Autumn, like the green sun loses some bang. So I've been happy with that so far. If Cindervines doesn't end up staying around and I want to like play Knight of Autumn again, then I would probably reverse that decision. I think Kaya versus Bob is a reasonable decision point. I'm going to ship it with the Bobs, though. I could also trim one Punishing Fire for Kaya, but like P-Fire does still pick off like the Planeswalkers and stuff, and that's pretty good. Okay, awkward hand. Very awkward hand. So we have two double black cards. We have two things that answer a Blood Moon effect, but no ability to use them. Ugh. So like Thalia's good, but like too slow on the draw. Our mana's really awkward. The Wasteland is not the sort of land that I really want in this matchup. I am shipping this one. Like it has like a lot of the right cards that I want, but I don't think the texture of this hand is good. Yikes. Oh. So I think I keep this one. Like, Verdant Catacombs means that I can fetch Forest, and then I can combine a Mox with any land that I draw to, like, have the ability to cast Abrupt Decay for the first big scary thing. This is probably a begrudging keep, and I'll top any land. It is not a land. Yeah, Mox Diamond is very good. Very, very good, because it lets you mitigate the power of the opposing Blood Moons. We can cast it. Whether or not we will cast it is an entirely different question. Oh god, Chalice on 0 would be devastating. But the Chalice of the Voids should be coming out. They're a very poor card in the matchup. We bottomed you. We bottomed you. All right. So I am going to play the Verdant Catacombs and pass. I don't really want to miss a land drop. And if I just like play Mox Diamond and pass, or like, this would be a devastating Karn. Yeah. I'm probably willing to take... Oh, God. So they're probably going to, like, minus Karn pre-combat. Fuck. Life's bad. I do stand by my decision that, like, Chalice of the Void should probably be boarded out in this matchup. Yeah, Zach, we're already there. Yeah, you've missed damage by doing that post combat, friend. I'm okay with just conceding here. Like we're taking 6 a turn. I don't have any plays. Even if I get to 2 mana, I just like decay a chalice or a construct token. We're done. All right. Now that I'm on the play, I think I probably want Kaya in here. I don't necessarily think I want Liliana, but like planeswalkers are just good in these sorts of matchups. So I think trimming a knight is probably pretty safe. Like if we assume that we're gonna get Blood Mooned at some point, like this card is of medium power level, especially with our Loams gone, so we're not like just naturally fueling it as well. And Lasco, thank you very much for your continued support. I hope you've been enjoying the shenanigans here. Okay, interesting hand. We have Punishing Fire for the first initial threat. I have Assassin's Trophy, kind of. Like, I can hold up Assassin's Trophy for a Blood Moon after any turn 1 scenario. Like, I do have Punishing Fire Grove. But is this hand good enough? Like, I think the hand is decisively medium. And I'd really rather get, like, a Mox and play, like, a turn 1 Bob or be a little more proactive than this. So it's my inclination to ship this one. What do you think, chat? Yeah, Zach, I kind of agree. Like, on a medium hand, this is fine. On a good hand, I don't think this is good enough. All right, this is turn 2, Bob, but we still, like, have a basic land, so I think this is fine. Like, I definitely like this hand better. Mox Diamond. I will keep that. That's my second color that I would need in order to, like, cast an Abrupt Decay or a Cindervines or something like that if I get Blood Mooned early. So the question is, like, which land do I want to play? Probably lead on Bayou. Then next turn, I can play, like, This is interesting. So I could play Bayou this turn, cycle Barrenmore, use Barrenmore to play the Mox immediately. And then I can't get got by my opponent playing Chalice on 0, which I don't necessarily think they're supposed to do when they're on the draw, but we don't necessarily know how good our opponent is. Kind of like that. So the line that I've taken has allowed me to play around a Chalice on 0. It does mean that, like, we don't have, like, Grove Punishing Fire, like, available and at the ready. But I think that's okay. Sure, but, like, when they have a moon and you're just getting back mountains, it's not necessarily stellar. Alright, so they can get a Magus of the Moon. I can fetch a 1/1 right now, or I can just, like, fetch to thin. I am going to fetch because... Actually, I don't need to. I can just, like, Punishing Fire that and then attack in, and leave myself the flexibility of fetching something different later. So I don't think I want to show them the forest yet. We'll sandbag that for as long as I can. So we'll kind of like play least valuable lands out. Chandra here would be bad. Hazaret, actually not that bad. It doesn't do a ton yet. Like, it can't attack or block currently. They can get Hellbent somewhat quickly. And once they are, like, the 5 damage a turn is rough, especially since I do have Bob. So am I playing out another Bob? Yes. Yes, I am. Am I playing out another Mox Diamond, though? That's a harder question. No, I don't think I want to fetch Dryad Arbor. I don't think I want to lose a land creature to a fiery confluence, which is the same reason why I'm not going to play out another Mox Diamond this turn. I think it's more likely that I'll want a different color of mana than that I'll need that 1 point of damage. Chalice on 2, okay. So I could fetch the Dryad Arbor now, but I'm really hoping to have things to do with my mana. So, like, I'm going to assume that I'm going to Wasteland this, crash in for 4. If I draw another land, like I play Mox Diamond, then I still have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana available if I fetch Dryad Arbor. I'll do it. I don't know that it's correct. But if they had Confluence, that was a great turn to Confluence, so I think they don't have it. So this is still a creature, right? Yes, it is still a creature, so I can Lily minus that. That's very strong. I was just checking to make sure it wasn't, like, templated like the Theros gods, where, like, it's not a creature until you have devotion to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to hold the Mox Diamond because, like, if I get rid of this Chalice, then, like, Punishing Fire Grove can, like, finish off the game in case they Ensnaring Bridge. Oh, that is a mighty impressive raid. Hello, hello, friend. Welcome. I was really excited when I was gearing up to my stream. I saw, like, a bunch of, like, White Eldrazi type of stuff on screen, and that was sweet. So I'm going to go back and, I think, watch the replay as I'm eating lunch today. Bye, Lily. So for anyone just tuning in, that's a solid draw. Do I have 6 cards in graveyard? That's fine. I can get a 7th in with Mox Diamond. And I can decay. We get to like have our cake and eat it too. All right. So quick aside. Hello, my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for Legacy Death and Taxes. We're playing a donation deck list today. We are playing Legacy 4-color Loam, and we're destroying this person and their family. Poor little buddy. Chalice at the Void, you can counter Abrupt Decay all you want, friend. So I can Punishing Fire this, just using this mana. I can play Grove so that I can rebuy it. I can play Mock so I can rebuy it and cast it, but it might just be better to just like crack my opponent again. Like the only other thing I'd be doing is getting rid of a Goblin token, which I don't think that I actually care all that much about. I guess I could block a Bob, and so like it prevents potential damage in the future. The Cabal Pit is effectively a spell, but like it's similar to Punishing Fire. I don't think it matters much. Ooh, Matt's plays this deck a lot. He gets it. So like I can tap Grove and then rebuy both, and it's easy. And I don't actually have to like think about that. And I can attack with the Dryad Arbor. Truth be told, I forgot I had the second one in there. I just always yield to this. Well, that makes life easy. So we can just P-Fire the Goblin. So do I have enough mana to do this? So I can go green, black, 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 1. And I have a land drop. All right, so things are good. So I can Nug in Snaring Bridge. Do I have mana to do this? So I want to go 1, 2, 3 for Lily plus. I'd rather just have the damage off Dryad Arbor. So one thing that I'm just going to point out while playing this deck is that when you're playing this deck while streaming, you miss stuff. And like I'll just be like fully, completely honest about that. Like you miss stuff when you are streaming with this deck because of like the number of lines that you have available to you. And when I'm like bouncing back and forth between screens, it's really easy for me to miss things. Like I forgot I had the second Punishing Fire in the bin and didn't realize that till someone pointed it out. And I didn't do the math for like Punishing Fire plus like Kaya finish you or anything like that. So like that's on me. I will fully admit that. Not making excuses because I didn't play optimally, But I'm just stating, like, this deck is hard, and when you're streaming it, it's harder. Right. I don't know what my opponent is playing. What do I think of this hand? So this would be like a play Baron more tapped, play turn 2 Bob hand. This is probably fine. Like, I have Decay to answer something opposing on the other side of the battlefield. Like, Bob hopefully draws me into some good stuff. I'll keep it. So, let the record show we're play. Let the record show that E.W. Landon, or I think it was someone playing his account, once beat me while playing Soul Sisters. It was miserable. Okay. So now I'm in the world where I have to wonder which ancient tomb deck my opponent is. If it's like something like Eldrazi, playing Knight so that I can have the ability to just like start the Wasteland machine is really, really good. There is something awkward about that though, and that's that like Dryad Arbor is my only forest. So in order to play Knight this turn, I'd have to discard Dryad Arbor. And so then I wouldn't be guaranteed to actually be able to Wasteland next turn. So it may just be better to play Bob. Unsure. Like, playing Bob doesn't use my mana to, like, my maximum capabilities. I could also just, like, jam Lily and Plus. But that might be slightly awkward. Like, if my opponent's, like, a show and tell deck or something like that, then, like, the Lily's not really doing a lot. If they're Eldrazi, they can play to the board, and it's not that big of a deal. Like, I can just, like, it can die 2 turns down the line to, like, a smasher. I think I'm going to play the Knight. Accepting that it can be awkward if I whiff. But I very much have the possibility of playing, like, both Bob and Abrupt Decay next turn. And that's probably fine. Alright, so we are playing against Eldrazi. Having a Knight in play is very, very good. And if my opponent's best play is Matter Reshaper here, that means great things for me. Alright. So I did whiff on the land, so I can't, like, Knight activate. I don't really want a Lily minus on Matter Reshaper. I could just Lily plus. Which is probably just medium. Like, my opponent probably doesn't need a ton of cards to kill me. I think I just play Bob and hope that Bob draws me into some lands, because once Knight is bigger than a 5/5, my life is great. Also, if my opponent doesn't realize that Knight can't tutor anything away right now, they won't actually attack Matter Reshaper into it. I say this because this happens more often than you would think. You can see, like, Oblivion Sower, Endbringer. Okay. See? See? Double Wasteland! Ooh, buddy. Let me think about this for a second. There's a world where I just want to like end step Abrupt Decay Matter Reshaper so that I can Liliana minus kill the Endbringer. The Endbringer is going to ping and kill my Bob. So there's that. I think that's probably better than just taking a random card from their hand. And by random, I mean the worst card from their hand. Yep, that's expected. That is truly annoying. Please plus. Okay. You can have Ancient Tomb, friend. I am not giving you all his dust. All right, so I really, really, really want them to not hit a creature here. All right, Eldrazi Temple. That's a fine trade. Lego Rock, thank you for following. I hope you're enjoying the content. All right. So the Eldrazi Temple is kind of annoying because it means that Endbringer can keep the knight from attacking. It's not the end of the world, but it's annoying. So now a Lily, minus on you. The Endbringer kills the Lily. That's to be expected. Okay. That's actually fine because that means that if I want, I can kill the Karn right now. So I can Wasteland myself, turn the knight into a 6/6 and kill Karn. I can also just knock Karn to 1, but the issue is that there's this nice like all is dust under Karn, and like Karn's -1 would get him that card. So I'm going to play Wasteland. I'm going to go and attack Karn. After no blocks, so I make sure I don't get blown out by Warping Whale, I'm going to Wasteland my own Baronmoor. So now we have a 6/6 knight. We're bigger than pretty much everything that they're going to have in their deck. Thought not take my chalice. Deal. Deal, 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 deal. We're in an okay position. Our opponent has more cards, but it's very likely that I'm going to become the aggressor, which is great for me. My opponent have like another Thought Knot, a Walking Ballista. Okay. Well, that's a good draw. So now I can start like wastelanding my opponent and grow this knight to just silly, silly size by dredging the Loam. I'm going to think about this turn for a minute to figure out like what I'm going to do. Like I could just like play land, cast Life from the Loam, cycle Baronmoor, try to put a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, just make the knight very big. Or I can just like Loam, Wasteland the Ancient Tomb to keep like Walking Ballista from just getting huge, huge, huge. I will have to consider like how many cards I take back with the Loam out of respect of Walking Ballista and the threats on the other side of the battlefield. So this might be a turn where I just take one wasteland with the Loam and like leave the knight as a 6/6 at end of turn. A 5/5 is probably okay. So maybe I take both wastelands in case I don't want to Loam, but I'm gonna Loam no matter what. So I think I'm just gonna target wasteland. We'll play this nice and slow. Once we get a few more lands in the graveyard, I can be a little more aggressive. My opponent will get an attack or two in while I'm in sort of this middling period. All his dust would be rough. Walking Ballista for 3, awkward. I probably would have attacked if I was the opponent there. Because like you'd be willing to trade like Thought Knots here and a few Ballista counters to get the knight off the table. The knight's terrifying. So that I can take draws in future turns, I'm probably going to pull 3 lands out of the graveyard, turn this into a 5/5, then immediately a 6/6. Ooh, maybe not. Ooh, yeah, I should do that Dryad Arbor thing now. So I need to leave knight as a 6/6 so it doesn't immediately die to ballistas. So I can get Dryad Arbor and Wasteland, and then be okay. So let me check that. Turn it into a 6/6 momentarily, sack Dryad Arbor, turn it into a 7/7, sack Wasteland, turn it into an 8/8, and then it's not going to die to these. But if I tap the knight, I suppose I don't need to like tap the knight right now. I can just like wait till my turn. Yeah, so that's fine. Or their turn. All right, so get a Dryad Arbor and a Wasteland, nothing more than that. Hit okay. Pay for it. Not actually all that scared of that. That's fine. Very glad my opponent isn't playing optimally, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there. I could get Cabal Pit and try to Cabal Pit away some of the smaller, like the smaller of the ballistas. I think just getting Wasteland's fine. My Tabernacle in my sideboard, my Tabernacle is in my sideboard. To that question I ask, why not Dredge? So, like, I can Dredge, get a Baron more, and then get a, like, draw out of it as well if I need to. So... Oh, you're right, I can't Loam anymore. You're right. I wasn't too concerned about this card at the time, but that was clearly a mistake. You're right. So now do I actually wasteland my opponent? Or do I save my mana to do things that matter? If I double wasteland my opponent, I don't take them off of any smaller things. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Single wasteland probably takes them off of double ballista pump. So single wasteland's probably fine for now. I think I'll play wasteland, nug their ancient tomb, and then pass. Yeah, this is a game 1 scenario. Bob kind of awkward here. Just like would take a counter off a walking ballista. It's not stellar. Also would be countered by Chalice. I'm not too worried about my clock. This is a real oddity when it comes to games in this matchup. So like they normally don't go like this. Normally one way or another someone has steamrolled the other person by now. Cabal Pit, not a great draw. It will be if my opponent continues to like grow the bigger ballista. So I suppose like right here I can get a ballista if they activate. Yeah, so now I can get this smaller ballista. And that's fine. No, now on future turns I'm comfortable with attacking. I didn't want to like just give my opponent the opportunity to like chump block with the small ballista and then nug me for a billion. I also need to like really worry about like what happens if I attack before I have Mazavith, because like my opponent would crack me for 10 and effectively 16. So I think I just like die if I attack. That was a little unexpected. See what my opponent can do with it. I guess like they can attack my knight into Emrakul, block, and then I'll die. I also don't want like my opponent to realize that they can just like Caracas their Emrakul and then just like do this every turn forever. We'll see if they realize that. They've missed a few things already. All right. So I'll take 10, 16, then my opponent will get to do the extra turn thing again, and I'm pretty much dead. So I'll concede here. Oh yeah, if my opponent would have played better in the beginning of the game, I'd 100% not have reached that stage. Agreed there. All right, so Cindervines is probably fine. Swords is probably good. Tabernacle's good. Charm's good. Johnny's good. Normally, Connor brought in Marchesa. Kaya's probably approximately as good. Different, but probably still fine. So what don't we like? Chalice is garbage. Teague's garbage. Bob's a little bit of a liability. We'll probably trim, but not cut. Same thing for library there. And maybe trim a punishing fire to round things out. Like, it's good against the smaller threats, but not the bigger ones. I think I like that. Oh, I'm glad you liked the that stream. That one was inspired by a friend who messaged me just like asking if I'd go over their deck list in detail, and I just decided it would be better as a stream. Okay, so what am I doing with this? Turn 1, fetch Savannah, get Dryad Arbor. Turn 2, play Knight. Turn 3, double Wasteland. Have Swords to Plowshares as well. This is fine. I'd like to see Vines do something sweet on stream. Um, that has not happened yet. It's not to say that the card is bad. It just hasn't happened that we've done something nutty yet. That's unfortunate. Like now they'll name my Wasteland, and in the short run, I'm not going to be able to just like go ham with Knights. I'm so surprised to see all these people keeping in Chalice and putting it on 0 against me. It doesn't seem like the best possible thing that you can be doing in this matchup, but apparently other people disagree. Like, generally speaking, playing Chalice against a Chalice deck is not a good idea. If he wastelands my Ghost Quarter, I think I'm okay with that exchange. Oh god, please, please pass the turn and let me get the value. No? Okay. So now I get to see whether or not my opponent actually has any basics. They do. Okay. So be it. There was huge upside if they did not. Like, I've still denied them 1 mana, which is fine. But I've denied myself the ability to play the second Knight this turn by taking that line. I guess I can, like, not attack this turn. Like, play Wasteland, play Savannah, sack the Savannah, get a fetch land, fetch, play second Knight, and then, like, following turn, potentially, like, have Lily or Swords to Plowshares as the follow-up play. That's probably still fine. It's better than 5 damage. I'm going to get Bayou under the assumption that I'm casting Lily next turn. Potentially just, like, killing my opponent by attacking in for 14. That's also a thing that can occur. Alright, so I'll just play Verdant Catacombs and attack in. That does represent lethal. So, let's see if they have something. No blocks. Fetch. Got him. I don't think I'll change anything for when I'm on the draw. Like, there are considerations you can make, like you could play the other Punishing Fires, you have one more card that can deal with an early Eldrazi Mimic or something like that. But it's not really the Mimics that you're worried about in this matchup. Okay, so my opponent has mulliganed. I have turn 2 removal spell into turn 3 removal spell, or turn 2 Bob into turn 3 Lily. This is probably fine. Tipsy, that's a fair point. But it's 4 mana, and like you can't use the Eldrazi temples to do that. Is that actually fine? Unclear. Okay, do I want to cycle Baron more this match, or do I just want to play it tapped? Cycling it end of turn is probably fine. Like, get Bayou. If I get Bayou with this, then I can't actually play turn 2 Punishing Fire with lands that are currently in hand. I guess I can play Verdant and pass and then decide what I want to do from there. I could fetch Badlands. I try not to fetch that land, though, because it's not a great land in terms of everything else that's going on with your deck. Like, for example, it doesn't help you cast Knight. Alright, so I expect to see my Lily go here, although there's a world where they just take Bob. Sci-Fi Emperor, thank you very much for your continued support, and I'm glad you're enjoying the content. I think I heard a second notification as well. Sladnas, thank you very much for following. Alright. Alright, I walked into that one. That one's on me, Master. So if I fetch Badlands to cycle, I don't actually... I can't actually like cast a Knight if I draw one. Alright, yeah, the Lily's gone. I should probably not be overly concerned with Knight. Like, I should probably play to the cards that I have in hand and fetch the Badlands. It's weird to do this. I almost never take this as my first land, but I think it's pretty likely that we'll draw another land that can hit a Knight. There we go. Okay, so I can just play Bob to try to find something that beats the Thought Knot. I can also play Bob because, like, Bob plus Punishing Fire does beat Thought Knot. Or I can just Wasteland. The issue with Wastelanding is that if my opponent continues to make land drops, I'm just going to get further and further behind on board, and the Bob that's in my hand will just get worse. 2 turns down the line, Kaya does kind of answer Thought Knot, so I'm actually somewhat inclined to just, like, play Bob, try to play to the board a little bit, and, like, draw 2 answers. I will feel bad for doing this if my opponent has Reality Smasher. Alright, so I have an Abrupt Decay and a Cindervines available. So they didn't have an opportunity to play Reality Smasher that turn. So I don't think I want to give them an easy opportunity to do so. So I'm going to nug an Eldrazi Temple, and I'll just pass with, like, Punishing Fire Bob to invalidate Thought Knot, effectively gaining me 4 life, or actually trading for the Thought Knot. Otherwise, I have Abrupt Decay up for if they, like, play something like Sorcerous Spyglass or Chalice. Oh, wow, this is actually a trade that's occurring. Did not expect that. So I guess there's a world where I should have Punishing Fired prior to the blocks in case they had Warping Whale. That's something I could have thought about. Ooh, man, I'll decay that. All right. Yikes. I'll give them the All is Dust, but it doesn't feel good. Would love to draw Assassin's Trophy to answer Karn. Womp womp. That would have let me, like, play some of my 4-mana stuff this turn. Okay, so I have 3 mana to work with. I can hold up Abrupt Decay Monolith. I can just, like, play out Cindervines and use that to destroy Monolith instead, if it's necessary. I don't think I want to, like, Decay Chalice and then, like, play a Mox. I don't think that's going to get me anywhere in a hurry. I guess I also do need to be cognizant of my clock. All right, Cindervines. This is your chance. Show me what you can do. Give them Ancient Tomb. Thespian Stage represents more long-term mana. Ancient Tomb also hurts them. All right, they've got an Endbringer. I think we're past the point where, like, the mana denial plan is, like, plan number 1. So now we'll kind of leave it to my opponent to play optimally. If my opponent plays optimally, I think I exile that. I think I'm in trouble. But they didn't last game. So, like, if they just, like, minus Karn, All is Dust, and they take out, like, my Cindervines and my Kaya for their turn, it's a very good turn for them. But I need to play like they're not going to play towards their best lines. Alright, let's see how much damage they can do to me with my own cards. They can get pretty cute. But I'm not going to say the things that I think are best to do, because is bad. I don't expect to win from here. Easiest path to victory at this point might be the meteor line, where my opponent just gets hit by a meteor and times out. Didn't necessarily go quite as badly as I thought it might, but it's still very bad. There we go. That's about what I was expecting. Okay, so I'm dead on board, which means I'm gonna have to minus and draw something. Like if I Kai a minus on... Yep, there we go. Good game. No regrets there. We're still off to a strong start. I'm gonna take 30 seconds and run to the restroom. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes. Today, we are playing some four-color Loam. It is a donation deck list, and we're about to hop into round 4. We're currently 2-1. I mean, to be fair, those Moxen wouldn't have done anything, right? Like, I didn't have lands to discard for them anyway, so, like, moot point. I'll keep this hand. Like, we have 3 stellar 2-drops, and we have the first 2 lands that we need in order to play them. My opponent has no little avatar. They have a black box. So that's kind of unique. So there is a question of, like, how do I want to do this? Like, do I want to play Sylvan Library first? Do I want to play Bob first? I'm not 100% sure. Bob is probably like the higher upside play, in that he's just going to like spit out a whole bunch of cards. But Sylvan Library is harder to answer. Like if my opponent has, say, like Fatal Push or something like that, it's like far worse to play the Bob. There's also a long conversation you could have about which land to fetch that turn. That I'm not going to go into. Ooh, are we playing the mirror? No, they're tapping one red. Probably not the mirror. Ooh. So if my opponent can, like, just go for it this turn, I'm in a bad position. So now we're looking to, ooh, Ashen Rider and Grizzlebrand. Ooh, do they have the 1-mana discard spell or ritual plus a 2-mana one? They do. All right, the good news is that they are at 4 life. So if I get Caracas to bounce it, it's very likely that I can kill them. The bad news is that I kind of have a 1-turn window to deal with Grizzlebrand. The damage might be done after 1 turn. All right, Decay does not answer that. All right, do I have anything that's 4 mana that would save me? So I could Green Sun for Night next turn. That's like one of the only draws that would really make me want to have a 4th mana available next turn. So I should probably just Wasteland my opponent to mitigate their ability to play multiple things in a turn. So like I have one card that really punishes me for wastelanding my opponent. I don't think the wasteland is overly likely to matter, but my opponent may not be willing to draw another 7, depending on like what the rest of their hand is like. The other thing I need to be concerned about is Ashen Rider. If that hits play, it could just exile one of my lands. But if my opponent gets Ashen Rider into play, I think I'm going to be on no outs anyway. Like, even if I draw, like, Caracas or Maze or something like that, there's 2 things that are going to be in play. So I think I have to ignore Ashen Rider and try to keep my opponent from, like, putting that into play in the first place. All right. So next turn, I get a Bob Flip plus multiple looks from Life from the Loam at Caracas. We'll see if we can get there. Opponent drawing 7 and failing to put a creature in play also would mean that Punishing Fire becomes live. All right. The Unmask here, not scary. We can lose a Decay. The Decay is not doing anything. Oh man, if they Exhume and I get Night, oh, they would get Ashen Rider. Almost was excited. All Alright, so they have the Ashen Rider. They get rid of the Bob. I do have Abrupt Decay. Never mind. This is very bad. So now my opponent can sack the Ashen Rider to, like, just take out one of my lands, which I think is much better than keeping the Ashen Rider around, personally. Happy to. Okay, so I guess I still take the life from the Loam, because, like, getting a Grizzlebrand off the table is priority 1. Alright, do we hit Caracas? We do not hit Caracas. We hit Mazavith. Alright. Yeah, Maze is sweet, but again, our opponent has access to Ashen Rider, so, like, sacking Ashen Rider to Cabal Therapy at any point means I can get rid of the Mazavith. Of note, if my opponent would have sacked the Ashen Rider last turn to get rid of my Savannah, I could not have cast that life from the Loam. And I would have been, not dead, but I would have been at 3. And, you know, they'd be at 11 with the potential to draw 7 more cards. So, and any spell means I'm dead. That is correct, Tuxdev, yes. They can also just have it all, and they can just kill us however they want. That was a match where we were very much playing towards some of the fringe sides of things. Like, we needed things to go really right to have a chance. If we would have had, like, a Chalice in our opener when we were on the play, it would have been a different story, but we kept a hand that was very good against fair decks rather than unfair decks. And that's fine. So this is probably what we're looking at, like, bringing in, just like we did before. We'll cut some of the, like, Loams and Punishing Fires, and we'll get rid of Teague, maybe trim the libraries and a Decay, and call it a day. 1 Decay, not 2. I guess there's also a consideration for trimming some land, but I'm fine with just having lots of mana producers in case I need to do something weird like hardcast Leyline. I said this before, but I think this matchup's pretty close to even. In the post-sideboard games where we have access to Leyline, like, a lot of those games just end up being slaughters. You've got to remember that Cindervines does damage, too. Okay, is this hand good enough? Like, I have a Graveyard Hate card, but it's not active until turn 3. I have a Swords to Plowshares to answer a creature, but if they just produce a Grizzlebrand, that's not good enough. I'm pretty sure I just mulligan this one and try to find, like, a Leyline hand or a Chalice turn 1 hand. Like, I like the cards that are in this hand, but I just don't think this is fast enough at all. This is another awkward hand, where I can kind of answer a Grizzlebrand or another threat, but I don't actually do anything, so I'm going to ship this one as well. I'm not thrilled with this 5. Like, again, we kind of answer a Grizzlebrand, but I'm not really doing anything. I still think that like any Leyland or Chalice hand is better than this. This may be the point where I'm just like mulling too far. And I should just like keep this. I don't regret any of the mulligans so far. Not even like staring down this hand. I don't think either of those hands were winners. I also don't think this one is a winner. So I'm going to continue to ship. Okay. So I can keep this 2-card hand that can cast a turn 2 hate card. And hope that the scry gets me into Thalia or Chalice. Basically it. Or I can try to mold a ley line. But mulling the ley line would be 3 hits on 3 cards. Which I don't love. I'm going to begrudgingly keep this one. I don't think that's good enough. And we're playing out both of these Moxen so that I don't get, like, discarded. Yeah, like, Cindervines can do a couple points of damage over the course of this game. And, like, that's fine and all, but, like, we're looking for one of very few cards here. Sure, but it doesn't stop Animate Dead on a Grizzlebrand when they already, like, draw 7 cards, right? Yeah, sure. Like, Chase, some of our initial hands might have ended up being better than this, but I don't regret any of my mulligans. The 5-card hand one is certainly questionable. But like that's an example of a hand where like 1 Cabal Therapy is just lights out. It turns out our opponent didn't have anything, so like hand 1 would have been fine. And that's super unfortunate, but you don't expect to like go to turn 4 with your opponent doing nothing. Like this is turn 5, my opponent hasn't made any plays yet. That's so weird. And I don't know why exactly they kept the hand. Thought I hit always yield to that. I did. Yeah, so if we had another Cindervines, we would have dealt my opponent 2 more damage. They would be at 17. So it looks like my opponent kept a hand without a creature. So now we're just going to see the flashback looting. Opponent would be at 13 if we had kept the other Cindervines. All right, so now they have found creatures, 2 of them, which probably means that like next turn they get a Chancellor. Or maybe now. The second Cindervines would be close to mattering at this point. However, if I just keep drawing lands, I am certainly not getting there. This does let me play just about anything around the Chancellor tax. But my opponent might just produce a second one. So the second Cindervines may have prevented that. I don't think I can afford to not play the Thalia, though. All right, we came close there. We hit one too many lands in a row. I think some of our earlier hands would have won that, but let's keep in mind that my opponent's hand was extremely weak. Like, you know, they took no real action until like turn 5 or 6. So that's not the norm. I mulligan the 7-card hand, you know, playing towards them, going and like doing something on turn 1 or 2, and they didn't. I'm looking at kind of a medium hand. No data on my opponent. So I have Life from the Loam Wasteland and Grove Punishing Fire. I think I want to keep this. This hand doesn't exactly do anything in the immediate future, but if my opponent's playing a fair deck, one of these two combos probably is fine. This is not like an explosive hand by any stretch of the imagination, but it's probably good. And I think I'll just lead on Forest and pass. This hand is probably... What? Okay, so we're playing against some sort of like mono blue wizard stuff. I don't know exactly what's in this deck. But I'm just going to start killing everything. Yeah, I remember watching a match of this deck sometime long ago. I don't remember what's in here. Is this going to be a Force of Will to protect Martyr of Frost? That might be a first. Pitching Sky Hussar. That's right. So that's the like forecast, tap 2 of your idiots, draw a card. That's one of like the engines of the deck. All right, so they're gonna wasteland my Grove, thinking that's gonna be enough, but I have another one. Joke's on them. What? I guess they can counter this by just holding up the mana, but that seems incorrect. Huh. Like, don't you just, like, waste the grove to prevent me from doing cool things? Yeah, so I let it go to their turn because, like, otherwise they just go and do who knows what. But I'm just going to play another grove and then pass. And then in the upkeep, I'll return it and kill this. And if they want to, like, use their turn's worth of mana to protect it, like, good on them. Oh, it involves sacking it? Nice. So if they have another Spellstrutter sprite, I probably want to kill this to decrease their fairy count. But otherwise, killing the Martyr's probably better. And I'm definitely doing it now so that they can't do this. I'm just not sure which one I'm supposed to counter. I think it's Spellstrutter Sprite. Because I'm more worried about them, like, countering a card at a critical time via this. Because this requires, like, both killing a creature and holding up mana. Okay. So my opponent's hemorrhaging cards right now. They really need, like, a Sky Hussar in order to, like, keep up with what's going on my side of the battlefield. Okay, they do have one. That makes sense since they were willing to pitch one to force. Alright. That card's kind of annoying. I do need another red source, which luckily I drew. So if they have Daze or Force, it's a little awkward to, like, try to Punishing Fire this Niv Magus Elemental. But I still think I want to do so. I could just, like, Abrupt Decay this turn and return my Punishing Fire. That's a bit safer. But if it goes wrong, then I just, like, decay this the following turn. Okay, no, I guess it's better to decay this now and Punishing Fire so that I leave myself with the potential of, like, Punishing Fire plus do another thing on the following turn. In order to do that, I'm going to need to fetch bad land so I can go green-black and have an extra red. And I've just returned that Punishing Fire now so I can get my F6 value. I don't think there's anything they can do at 2 mana that's really going to matter. This is going to be a weird game. Yep. All right, so that's kind of why we attacked the Spellstutter sprites aggressively earlier on. It's a-okay if that gets countered. I think I'm fine with loaming and taking these lands back. Like, the more groves I have, the more red I have, the more opportunities I have to gun down multiple of these creatures. Again, my opponent isn't really pressuring my life total right now, so I'm not in any real danger. They also don't really have mana to both like deploy threats and do something like hold up mana for this. So life's okay. Golgari Charm in the post-sideboard games, going to be stellar, by the way. Chalice on 1, also probably strong. Don't think I need to Loam. Mox Diamond, actually an okay draw. Hey, maybe my opponent wants to sack their Judge's Familiar so that this one dies instead. Ooh, Flusterstorm. Okay, you got me. I got a card out of it. Hey, okay. So I'm getting 2 Punishing Fires a turn to whatever they can do. A Vial's okay for them. They're really choked on mana. Again, Mox Diamond's certainly not bad. I think the turn where I get them down to just 1 creature in play is the turn where this game ends. As soon as they can't draw a card every turn with Sky Hussar, I think we're just done. Yeah, and we've reached the slippery slope where my opponent is done with me. Oh, that was... I'm conceding the match to you, by the way. Not, I'm conceding the game. They were completely done, not willing to play another game of that. Okay. I accept this. Alright, that was another 3-2 finish with the deck. No complaints about the deck list here. Had kind of a medium run. I didn't play perfectly today, that's for sure. Unsure on whether or not Kaya is better than Marchesa. I, like, one league's worth of information is not very much, but I have a pretty positive view of Marchesa, so I don't know whether or not I will, like, cut this and go back to Marchesa when I play again, or whether I want to keep testing it. The card was kind of medium today. Marchesa might have been better, might have been worse in a couple of the situations. Not a poor choice for sure. just awkward sometimes. Cindervines was fine. It was, I won't go so far to say as like good versus Reanimator, but like we did see it do a decent amount of damage in that matchup. So like assuming you had some other hate piece in play already, this would be a fine second thing to throw down against a combo deck. So like the real question I think about Cindervines in the long run is going to be like, is having 2 Cindervines in the sideboard better than having another Green Sun Zenith and a Knight of Autumn? And like, is this Sylvan Library better enough than the Green Sun Zenith to warrant those changes? I think that's kind of like the situation that the deck's in. I do really like the second library. Like, we didn't really have a library day in a couple of the opportunities where we could have led on library. We led on Bob instead because I do think it's slightly better. But like having more impactful 2-drop plays is something that I really like. So I would be okay with running 74 of the 75 again and then giving some thought for this slot here. All right, so I think that's all I have for this morning. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to be back on Monday night. I currently don't have a donation for that slot, so if you're interested in supporting the channel, please consider that. Otherwise, you know, I'll be here every Monday and Wednesday night, as well as Saturday mornings, streaming some Legacy. I'm one donation away from my next sort of like guest appearance on who knows who's gonna show up. I'm going to turn you over to some small streamer. I don't know who they are, but they're apparently playing Legacy, and I hope that, you know, they'll enjoy the support. Good afternoon, folks, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Maybe go eat a delicious hamburger. That's what I'm doing tonight.